ready?
Man, I am ready. Y'all ready to get down? I can't wait to put my arm in it. Get.
Hi people, welcome back to my YouTube. It is your girl Honey. Welcome back people, welcome back. Those of you who are new here, welcome to my channel. Please like, subscribe, share, comment. So today's topic is going to be a highly requested video. You guys have been nagging me like for the last several weeks about posting this video. I've had quite a few people ask for it, but I did film it before. I just weren't happy with it. And I can't be putting out terrible content for you people. I can't do that, you know. We are going to be talking about ancestral trauma, you know, family curses, things like that, and how to find it in the birth chart. Our whole birth chart indicates karma. And obviously we've all been here before, you know. So I recommend you guys who have heavy 8th house planets, and if the sun or the moon is in there, I guarantee there's some sort of link to financial matters. And also when you are born with an 8th house sun, 8th house moon, Scorpio sun, Scorpio moon, Pluto aspecting your sun or your moon, usually some sort of deep psychological issue that your parents would have gone through either just before you were born or as you were being born. You can also see that there could have been a death at that time. You know, when you hear about people, a family member has died and then suddenly someone else is born, like we see a lot of that going on as well. And what we see is Pluto tends to be very prominent in that person's birth chart when there has been a death and then a rebirth. So everyone knows at home what family issues that they have going on. Everybody has their own situation. So I'm going to kind of use my chart for an example. What I'd like everyone to do is to look at the water houses in your birth chart. Water houses is house 4, 8 and 12. And there's usually something in there that will show us or tell us what we are dealing with karmically. And those people who have empty houses, it's fine because that's still very much relatable to what I'm going to say to you throughout this video. My family, I think my issues or my family issues have been finances, ma'am. Yeah. And you see how my face goes? I feel sick even thinking about it because
I don't want to identify with that. Nah,
I don't want to. The reason why I say that is my birth chart, I have Jupiter conjunct Chiron in the 2nd house, opposing my moon, the 8th house. Jupiter is only at early degree. Jupiter does not aspect my moon, just to be clear. So if you have moon aspecting Chiron, look at the house placements Chiron and the moon are placed in. And that will link us to what's happening with your mother, what traumas your mum has almost transferred onto you. You see, when you're someone who is having children or want to have kids, and you have a fear in place, oh, what if I can't financially support them? What if I can't do this? Or what if I got nowhere to live? Or all of that, that's energy. Energy is transferable, people. It gets passed on to your baby. Okay, your baby, and your baby gets blessed or gets given the same fears that you have yourself. So the frustrating thing for me is that I've had to experience horrendous things with my Chiron and my moon in terms of assets, in terms of money. A lot of this is because of the mentality that I have developed or inherited from my mother. For the 8th house. The 8th house is about psychologically dissolving the planets that's in there or the sign that is in there. If your 8th house is empty, for example, look for the 8th house ruler. For example, Capricorn rules that house, to look for Saturn. And through the house that Saturn is placed in, how I psychologically evolve. Every time we are reincarnated into this world, it is our job, our purpose to create a change, to break the family curse. So that's why with me, I've been given a Capricorn moon. My sister has a Taurus moon. My brother has a Taurus moon as well. 3 earth moons given to us. And we all feel the same in terms of our relationship with our assets, our finances, and what makes us feel secure in the world. All of that has stemmed what we've witnessed our mum go through financially. Let's talk about how your parents' relationships can have a major effect on your relationships. People who are born with like Venus square Mars placements, Venus square moon placements, Venus in conjunct moon. Any difficult aspects from moon to Venus or from Venus to Mars we would see that you would come from a background, even when you have Libra in the 4th house, your background in terms of relationships is going to come from what you had witnessed growing up. Chiron in the 7th house, Chiron in Libra. When you think about Venus and Mars, Venus is your divine feminine energy, Mars is your divine masculine energy. Venus and Mars are yin yang energy, so their purpose is to create harmony together. And when they are squaring or in a poor aspect, they become out of balance. And if you are dealing with a lot of squares and issues in terms of creating harmony in your chart, that's going to reflect in your relationships as well. And also, sometimes you can be a child who can come from a home where there was a lot of abuse and domestic violence that you may have witnessed, and you see that in someone's birth chart. Usually when we see things like that, Mars could be in the 7th house, Mars could aspect your moon, there could be Pluto or Mars in your 12th house. The 12th house relates a lot to fears and anxiety, and it relates to you coming into the world, so during your mother's pregnancy with you. And what we're seeing is mum could have gone through some sort of abuse or trauma herself, and you could have felt that in her womb. So we see a lot of fears being reborn again into the world, and not liking drama, not liking arguments, not liking being involved in any sort of confrontation. Especially people who deal with like Sun square Mars or Mars square Moon. All of that contributes to you being very confrontational yourself. You know, I don't want to say who is or isn't an abuser, because there are lots of people that have these placements that aren't people who want to hurt other people. Sometimes we can see particular placements in certain people can indicate that they come from a really difficult background. Now they're kind of creating traumas for other people. Hi people, so look, we have Chris Brown's chart here. He's the best example to use because we all know who Chris Brown is, and we all know that he physically abused Rihanna. We all saw the pictures. Now, before anyone comes at me in the comments, right, Chris Brown's posted this chart to his Instagram before, okay? And this, I believe, is the correct chart. So Chris Brown is a bit older than what he says he is. There's a second chart online, which I think is public knowledge or display. I don't want to go by that one. This is the correct chart. This one makes a lot of sense in terms of witnessing his mannerisms. Mannerisms can be found through Mars and Mercury, and looking at his Mars also conjunct Chiron, he looks like he's always on drugs, right? He just looks very scatterbrained, like just very up and down. Anyway, I thought I'd use him because he is a Scorpio moon with Saturn conjunct his moon, and his moon is also opposing his Mars. Again, public knowledge, we all know that his mum went through domestic abuse. He witnessed his stepdad always beating on his mum, so he physically saw his mum going through it. And with him being given a Scorpio moon, Scorpio is a very karmic sign. And what we're dealing with here is that there's a lot of psychological issues that his mum may have had that has now been passed on to him. I don't know the detail of things, but it looks like she didn't leave the relationship so easily or so quickly. Obviously, you know, he witnessed his mum being beaten. So he's been given a Venus in Aries. Aries, again, confrontation. We've got Mars opposing his moon. That's the confirmation of him witnessing that his mum was being physically abused. But also, this is a placement that we can find in somebody who likes to argue with women, who likes to argue with women, create drama, and in the worst case scenario, physically take out your emotions on women. His Venus is ruled by Mars. Mars is also aspecting his moon. His moon is in Scorpio, co-ruled by Mars. All of that is very domineering energy. So a lot of how he handles his relationships is he's very proactive, but proactive in the wrong type of way, emotionally trying to defend himself. So that defense is the Aries and the Mars, always defending the emotions, and by doing so, that can mean physically abusing someone. I recommend that I use Astro Future and also Astro Gold to do this exact thing. So you put 3 charts on top of each other like this. I know it sounds so confusing. You're able to kind of see where there may be a cluster of planets all stuck together. For example, I've done this with my parents just to see what's happening, you know, between me, my mum and my dad. So those of you who don't know, my dad's a Pisces, my mum is an Aquarius, and I'm an Aries sun. My dad is an Aries moon, my mum is a Leo moon, and my mum has her Venus in Pisces. Mine is in Pisces, my dad is a Pisces sun, but my dad's Venus is in Aquarius. So can you see how we're all kind of interlocked together? All of that energy, Aquarius and Pisces, all sits along my 10th and my 11th house. I was raised in an environment where I was raised as a Rastafarian, and I had a lot of freedom in terms of what I can do with my life, with my career. A lot of that freedom is coming from the heavy Aquarian energy that my parents have. One of my dominant planets happen to be Uranus as well. Now, when they had ended their relationship, they still kept a friendship, which again is very Aquarius, 11th house, you know, it's very unconventional, but it worked. And how that's had an effect on me now is in a lot of my relationships that I've had is I'm very happy just kind of being friends. I don't have to have like this intense relationship and I have to have someone there. Again, unconventional. And what's happened is now that I'm actually in like a relationship with someone and they have a lot of staying power, me it's harder because of how I was raised in my background, because I'm used to having ultimate freedom, me having commitment issues in terms of committing to anything in the world, like literally anything, because again, freedom is a must. And the next one I want to talk about is Cancer. Cancer sits in the water houses. We are seeing that there's a lot to do with there being an ancestral connection going on. Ancestral connection can show us mum's mother, your auntie, your auntie's kids, your cousin, your great aunt. There's like some sort of lineage going on. What we see is that there can be repeated things that your grandma did, like, oh my god, this is a perfect example. There was this viral video going around of these women, and they were all part of different generations, right? We had a child who was like, I think she was like 16, and she was like, hey mom, come here mom. The next person, come here mom. The next person, come here mom. Every second it was a new mom. Hey mom, hey mom.
Hi, mom. Hi, mom.
Hi, mom. Hi, mom. Hi, mom. Hi, sixth generation.
And it was a 16-year-old. I think the next one was like 30-year-old. The next one was like, it kept on going. Like there was like about 6 different mums that came out. All of these generations of women. When I read through like the tweets and stuff, a lot of people were saying, oh, you know, some of them experienced giving birth very young because they went through rape and abuse and things like that. And it was crazy because one of the ages, I think the oldest mum, the great grandma, whatever it is, had her child at 12. She had that child through rape and abuse. You see how the cycle kept on continuing over and over again with a lot of young pregnancies going on. And again, a lot of that can be found through 4th and the 8th house being in Cancer. Let's talk a little bit about Saturn now, because Saturn is also a very intense planet. It represents karma anyway. And whatever house you have Saturn in, it represents what you need to karmically unfold in there, take accountability for. I will probably do a Saturn through the houses series at some point. I will, to see where your Saturn is placed, and especially if it is in challenging aspect to your personal planets. You need to look at the aspects to your Saturn in detriment where it is, your Saturn squaring Pluto. Usually when it comes to Saturn in the birth chart, it's all about how we are dealing with things, how well we are going to take accountability and responsibility, how we are going to adult in a sense. So we're given Saturn in Aries. Saturn in Aries has a lot of work to do because Aries is the spring chicken, it's the baby. So it's there to kind of express itself and respond, react based on impulse, and also apply energy to things. So when Saturn sits in Aries, we see that you are lacking so much accountability. I have siblings that are born in that generation and they're the youngest. Whenever I see Saturn in Aries, I'm always thinking, God, you must be the youngest, one of the youngest, or you may be the oldest but you behave very much like the youngest. And it's like you have to kind of find your own sense of authority within yourself, which I think you guys end up struggling a lot with. I'm always going to use this generation because they deal with so much. So the 95, 96 generation, you guys have your Saturn in Aries, Jupiter is also in detriment in Capricorn. You guys also have Chiron and North Node conjunct in Libra, creating a T-square. Okay, and this is for the 96 generation. Some people will be born different times, obviously, so the aspects may be very different for everybody. But this generation in particular, I feel that you guys have been dealing with so much karmically, and a lot of that could be down to the male role models in your life. Again, did you have grandparents? Were your grandparents around, you alive at that time? You lack positive male role models as well, because when Saturn sits in Aries, we haven't always got the best role models. We get very childish role models around us, you know, who aren't always there to guide us through adulthood, give us that fatherly advice that we all need to have. Even in terms of the nodes, right? When you think about like the South Node in particular, which represents our past, our early years as well in terms of like our youth. Any planet that is conjunct the South Node turns into a malefic. Typically when I have seen like Mars conjunct the South Node, I see someone who may have been physically abused as a child. And what happens is they're not really sure how to utilize their Mars energy. So how this tends to relate to your family karma, right? I guarantee if you put your charts next to your parents, you'll kind of get more of an understanding as to what's happening with your planets that aspect the nodes. So let's say, for example, someone has their South Node conjunct Mars. The Mars is in Libra, the Mars is in Pisces or Taurus. Mars struggles in those particular signs in terms of repressed anger, repressed frustration. And what we see, we can look at the parents' charts, mum and dad, and we can see parents that may have been very angry people, but they repress their anger because they would hate for their child to see that. So that's where we're linking a lot of the Mars conjunct South Node, where it's learnt behavior and it's teaching that child that no, you haven't got to be angry. You can just, you know, sit in a room with someone who you hate right now and just ignore your emotions, ignore your responses. And that again has a negative effect on that child in the real world, because that person now has to deal with, how can I make my Mars a lot stronger? How can I be more reactive? A lot of the energy of Mars. I always recommend being around someone who has Mars conjunct your North Node. Help you understand more about how to get to your North Node's point, but also how to utilize your Mars a lot better. And I want to just talk about this as well, because this is something that I found, like, I think I've read over 700 charts, I think now. I have been busy, yeah? Even in terms of traveling, this is what's so crazy to me, is that a lot of the readings that I've done, there are particular places in the world where some people are prone having more of a challenging chart than others. I've noticed that Eastern Europe, which tends to be like Lithuania, Poland, that side, Bulgaria, a lot of the clients from that part of the world that I've read have got a lot of trauma going on. I've also found Caribbean, Cuba, Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico have a lot of trauma involved in their chart as well. If you go to certain parts in the world, right? Yeah, like the western parts of the world. I've read a guy who was born in California. He was a white guy, right? Poor guy. Everything in his chart exhibited wealth, money, security from his family, having amazing networks will financially support him. His chart embodied that. I'm not saying
Every single white person in their chart is amazing because
it's not about that at all. But if I've read 700 birth charts, my clients are from all over the world. And what I've seen is that there is more of a struggle in certain parts of the world than there are in others. That's what brings up PTSD. You have people who have fought in the war. You have grandparents, great-grandparents who have fought in the Second World War. We've got family members who are fighting in this world war. We have people who have had to move, who are refugees. A lot of this comes up in the birth charts of people.
Also, that has nothing to do with what ethnicity or nationality you are. Everyone's got their own different struggle, but based on what I've seen reading that amount of charts, I've noticed that there is definitely a bit of a theme going on.
And let's just think about it. When you think about our grandparents' trauma, our parents' parents have experienced all types of traumas, especially in terms of slavery. How many of those people have had therapy for that? How many of these people have managed to deal with their demons themselves? All of that energy, again, is all transferable, so it's being passed on from one generation to the next and to the next and to the next. And before you know it, it's there in the birth chart that you have to deal with in this incarnation. Even in terms of 2020, like, had such a crazy year. So what you'll find is a lot of the themes that have happened in the year that we were born, very significant in our personal lives. And a lot of the kids that I feel that were born maybe like late 2019 up until 2021 March. These kids have so much going on. I mean, they've had Pluto conjunct and in Capricorn. These ones are going to have Pluto conjunct Jupiter, Aquarius. You see, every single generation that has Pluto going through it, Pluto is there to transform something. Pluto is there to create a major change. I also recommend looking at what's happening with your Chiron placement. I'm pretty sure there will be a link towards Chiron and your parents. So I was saying to you guys before, like, my Chiron is in Cancer, my second house. Notice that my Chiron is aspecting my moon, therefore my mum is very much involved in this healing process that I need to do. And obviously witnessing her relationship with money, her self-esteem, because it's mad. Like, my mum has Venus in Pisces. And the annoying thing about Pisces energy is that how it looks on the outside may not always be what it actually is going on the inside. My mum's Chiron is very close to her natal Venus. Just realized I've never seen her be single. Never seen her be single. A lot of people who do have Chiron aspect Venus are either very fearful of relationships or fearful of being alone. And my Chiron trines my mum's Venus and her Chiron. So I have an ability here to visually see now what's going on, and for me to not end up in a situation where I settle for anything or just stay in a relationship because it's habit or I'm so used to being here. I have an option to heal your Chiron. For example, my dad's Chiron is in Capricorn. My dad has 0 earth in his chart. That's why I'm a flipping 12th house sun. With my Chiron opposing my dad, I have such a hard time trying to help this man understand structure. Like, I can't tell you how hard it is to understand what being grounded is. And I'm a Capricorn stellium. My Chiron trines my mum's Chiron. I'm always helping my mum to boost her self-esteem. I'm like,
Mum, you're a badass, what the fuck are you doing?
I'm always like that with my mum. That's the thing when you have this energy going on, is that you have a choice. You can choose to heal yourself through what your chart looks like. If I sat there and didn't verbally say or even try and physically do, whether my parents listen or not, I psychologically understand what my Chiron is telling me to do. And my consciousness can't sit there and not try to help my parents. I always say it's very important to understand all of us here, all of us existing are here to heal. A lot of us don't want to psychologically look in the mirror, okay, and see all of our ugly, all of our vulnerabilities, the parts of ourselves that we don't even like. A lot of us are going to have children, going to be around kids at some point in our lives. Stuff that we've psychologically downloaded consciously through our family members has a major effect on sponges, the babies. If you want to have kids that are happy, that are healthy, and have healthy relationships with people, with their friends, with family members, with money, whatever trauma that you have going on with your life, you have to heal that before you are going to start producing, because your kids are going to inherit all of these fears, anxiety, feelings that you have. Anything that relates to a trauma that you have, your kids will have it. The burden is then placed onto them. Have to heal. People, I hope you have thoroughly enjoyed this week's video. If you guys have any more suggestions, hit me up in the comments below. I will see you guys next week or even in a few days, who knows. But I wish you guys all the best and take care of yourselves and stay safe, people. Stay safe. Bye.